Stampers, this is Marie Bennett at blackberriesandcream.net. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and today I'm going to make a card that I have pinned on my Wondrous Wreath board on Pinterest. And that card is made using this Peaceful Wreath stamp set that's new in the holiday catalog this season. And out of this stamp set we're going to be using this large wreath image and the To the World. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to be using the thick Whisper White cardstock as the base for this card, cut at 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, and folded down the middle. And then the next layer of this card is real red, and it is cut at 4 by 5 1/4, and that's going to be just adhered to the card base. And I'm just using snail adhesive for this. I have remnants of the last video I made still on my work table. Sorry about that. Alright, so this just goes on with about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And the next layer is a piece of Whisper White cardstock that is cut 1/4 inch shorter and narrower. So this is cut at 3 3/4 wide by 5 inches long. And it just goes on. Whoops, shoot. I'm out of snail. Actually, I'm never out of snail. I keep my snail containers fully loaded. Alright, so that is the same. It'll have about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. And now our basic card is ready. The top layer of the card is made using a piece of the red foil paper. I just love this paper. And it measures 1/4 of an inch narrower and 1/4 of an inch shorter than this piece. So I'm going to say it's 3.5 by 4 3/4. This does not go on yet, but that is the top layer of the card. Okay, so to get this piece ready, we're going to be doing some embossing on this foil. And to get the foil ready, I'm using my little embossing buddy. And the grain of the foil runs that way. So I'm going to rub my embossing buddy that way because I don't want to scratch the foil. Okay, so this little sentiment to the world is, I'm using Versamark for this. So I'm going to ink it up with Versamark, and that sentiment is going to go way down in the very bottom corner, right here. And I can tell it's inked up because the letters on my stamp turn red, and I can see that they're fully in contact with the foil. The next image I'm using is the wreath, and for this I hold my Versamark pad and just try to get a really good coating of Versamark on that stamp. And it is going to get stamped at the very top, centered, but at the very top. And same thing, when all the lines have turned red, then I know I've made good contact with the foil. And I need to hold it down here, being careful not to touch my sentiment, and pull that off. Alright, so now I'm going to emboss this using white embossing powder. Just pour that on. and then knock it off. And you can tell that where I have touched the foil with my fingers, I don't know if it's static electricity, I'm not sure what's going on here, but I just use my paintbrush to kind of get rid of this extra embossing powder as much as I can. And then I'm going to take it over to the heat gun and heat emboss this piece, and I'll be right back. Okay, so there you have it. You want to be careful when you're doing the heat embossing, because if you get this foil too hot, it releases from the back layer and kind of bubbles and makes wrinkles on your foil. So you need to be careful when you're doing heat embossing on foil. Okay, the next thing we need to make for this card is we're going to use the Big Shot and a piece of Whisper White cardstock, and we're going to use the thinlits, the Wonderful Wreath thinlits, and cut out the word joy and the bow. So we have the word joy and we have our bow, and this card is almost finished. Okay, so I'm going to adhere the foil sheet to the top of the card. Alright. It should have the same, about 1/8 of an inch border all the way around. I'm just going to turn it over and press it just to make sure it's stuck. There we go. Alright. So now what we have left is to adhere the word joy and the bow, and then this card is finished. So to put the bow on there, I'm going to use glue dots. And I think I'm going to use 2 glue dots. Right there. And then for the word joy, I'm just using some Tombow glue. And I'm just going to put a very thin bead of Tombow glue. If you can't do a bead, you know, an occasional dot would work. I've seen demonstrators who like to let this glue get tacky, so leave it for, you know, 2 or 3 minutes before you actually stick it on the card. And I think that's not a bad idea. And it goes right here. And that's the card right there. Isn't that gorgeous? Okay, I'll be right back with the credits to let you know who made the card and where I found it. Alright, so before I show you the credits, I wanted to show you the inside of the card, which also came from that same stamp set called Peaceful Wreath. And on the inside of the card, I used the At Christmas. So the card says, Joy to the World at Christmas. It's a very, very cute card. And it was made by Darlene McCollum, and her website is, this is all one word, dreaminaboutrubberstamps.com. So if you'd like to see more of Darlene's work or want to visit her website, that's where you go. Well, thanks for watching, and happy Stampin'.